All right, guys, today we're going to be talking about point of view. So just be taking some notes on the note sheet as you listen to this presentation, and at the end you'll have a couple of practice questions that you'll answer on your own paper. So here we go. As you can see, we're talking about point of view, and essentially this is who is telling the story. So it depends on whether it's a character or a narrator outside of the story, and we'll learn some of those different ways that a story can be told. Point of view is just the perspective of a story. So take just a minute, maybe pause this video so you can spend a little more time with it if you wish. But as you look at this picture, depending on your perspective and what you're looking for, you may see either a young woman or an old lady. So again, if you want to spend a little time with this, just pause the video here and see if you can see each of those two characters. But again, the idea is just about different perspectives. So here's our definition of point of view. Point of view is the vantage point from which a story is told. So this is a simple concept, but it can really have a big impact on a story and how the story feels. There are three main types of point of view, and we'll get into each of these in a little more detail as we go through the presentation. But here are just those big ideas. We have first person point of view, second person point of view, and third person point of view. But as you can see with third person, there are three types or subcategories here. We have third person limited, third person omniscient, and third person objective. First, we're going to talk about first person point of view. In first person point of view, the story is told by one of the characters. So it's somebody actually in the story. And the best way we can figure out this type of point of view is by looking at the pronouns. In this case, the character uses pronouns such as I or me, and is usually in much, if not all, of the action in the story. So you kind of get the idea of first-person point of view. If the character is talking about themselves a lot, talking about their actions, their feelings, their thoughts. And again, the key here is this concept, the second bullet point right here, using the pronouns like I, me, my, we, our, those pronouns that show that they're talking about themselves. In this case, I'm looking at the third bullet point now. The character or protagonist must experiencing everything with his or her senses or be told about something. Otherwise, if they're not in a particular scene, they're not going to know about that information. To be first person point of view, like it says up above, usually that one particular character is in that one scene and experiencing the action. And the bottom bullet point, it says, as the reader, you experience that story only from what that one character knows, thinks, and feels. Okay, so again, that's first person point of view. Second person point of view is told from the perspective of you. So that right there, that's the pronoun that we see with second person point of view. We see you and your. It is when the author speaks directly to the reader. And do note here, it is rarely used in literature. But I do want to point out, when we read The Cask of Amontillado, you might remember at the very beginning that Montresor, he was talking about you who so well know the nature of my soul. That's because he was talking to us as the reader. He's pretending as if we are in the story. But most of the time, it's not used in literature, so that means not for novels or short stories. A better example would be a how-to book, in which the writer refers to the audience as you. So anytime that you are being given directions, whether you are building a table or making a recipe, when it gives directions, it's talking to you. So remember, I am first and you are second. And here's we get into our final main type of point of view, third person. In this case, third person point of view is when a story is told by the narrator who is not a character in the story. Again, not a character in the story. So remember that with third person point of view, there are three types. So the second bullet point says, depending on the type of third person point of view, the narrator may reveal the thoughts and feelings of only one character, which is third person limited, all the characters, which is third person omniscient, Or they may be able to report on what is seen or heard like a reporter. In this case, it's third person objective. And we'll get into each of these three subtypes here in the next few slides. First, we'll talk about third person limited. Remember, in third person limited, we learn the story through the thoughts and feelings of only one character. We're limited to one character. Now, it's not like first person where we see I and me and my. In this case, we see he or she, but we do know everything about that one character, including their thoughts and feelings. So we can learn about other characters based on what this one character sees or hears or thinks about them, but we know everything only about this one character. So again, this is third person limited, where we get the thoughts, feelings, and emotions of only one character. The second type of third person is third person omniscient. Omniscient, omni means all, and so omniscient is all-knowing. So in third person omniscient, we know the thoughts and feelings of all characters. And what this might look like in a book is maybe one chapter is told from the perspective of one character, and the next chapter is about a different character. But again, here it means all-knowing. So the character knows everything. And it's not just actions or things that people say, but it's thoughts, feelings, and actions. And the final type of third person point of view is third person objective. In this case, we get the actions. We see what people say and do for all characters, but we don't get the thoughts and the feelings. It's kind of like the narrator is reporting on what they see in the story, but we don't know how other characters are feeling about what is being said and done. It's just like a reporter reporting on the news. You can only talk about what you see, but they're not in the minds, and so they can't talk about feelings or thoughts. So here's where I'll leave off with this video. At this point, the rest of it is for you to have a chance to practice with these concepts. So if you continue clicking through the slides, and I'll click through them slowly, you'll just need to pause them to be able to complete these activities. But up to this point, you may use your notes to answer these quick check questions, as well as the practice questions on the next few slides. Just a quick review. Remember that we have three main types of point of view. We have first person, in which we have the pronouns I, me, my, we, our. In second person point of view, we have the pronouns you and your. And remember, that's kind of like a how-to guide or a recipe. And for third person point of view, we have the pronouns he, she, or they. But in those cases, we have three different types of third person. We have third person limited, third person omniscient, and third person objective. So again, I am going to leave off here. I will click through the slides so that you may have the practice, and just pause the slides so that you can write down this practice to be turned in at the end of the hour. One more quick thing. Do note my hint that's at the top of all of these practice slides. Pay attention to those pronouns. Pay attention to those pronouns. That's the easiest way to tell what type of point of view something is.